Hello, and welcome to the Womans Work podcast. This podcast is a research podcast dedicated to showcasing, discussing, and celebrating all of the achievements, accomplishments of women around the world. A little bit about me. My name is Asia Minor, a filmmaker here in Atlanta, Georgia. And essentially, just to provide a little bit of a background of how this podcast came to be. I was visiting the Jimmy Carter Center for the first time this year in 2025. And in the introductory video, as I was sitting down and making myself comfortable, there was a brief talk in a brief section about Rosalynn Carter's, not only her accomplishments to the White House when she was First Lady, but also her taking a trip to Latin America. And as I'm sitting and I'm listening to her delve all into the work that went into making that trip, as well as discussing just a lot of the work as a whole of being First Lady to Jimmy Carter, some of the different boards that she sat on, X, Y, and Z. It really, I was floored that I had no idea that First Lady Rosalynn Carter had accomplished all of these things. But then the wheels in my head started spinning, and I went, I'm thinking, how many other women are out here that have made all of these incredible accomplishments in our history, and they have either been overshadowed by their male counterparts, or just did not receive the recognition that I believe they deserve. And so, sitting there, by God, this idea popped into my head. What about starting a research project highlighting some of these accomplishments? And as I am an Atlanta girl, born and raised, I wanted to kick off this podcast by highlighting three incredible women, all surrounded around the theme of civil rights. Three incredible Atlanta women, I should say. So for this kickoff episode, we're starting with First Lady Rosalynn Carter, Coretta Scott King, and we're finalizing with Elizabeth McDuffie, who was a housekeeper here in Atlanta, Georgia, but who became so much more. And I'm so excited to have you all here along with me. I've been working with a talented team of researchers. And so just to set a little bit of context, each of the women mentioned in this podcast, right? So Rosalynn, Coretta, and Elizabeth McDuffie. These are essentially women who are operating in essentially when America was in the fractured time of mid 60s to 70s. Each and every single one of these women are being born in an era that's past slavery, right? You have segregation happening. You have the Great Depression, prohibitions, women's rights or lack thereof. And so what we're going to be discussing about with these women, and kind of as we go about and talk through this podcast, and I invite multiple guests to come on here and discuss these women with me, right, are how each of them use their agency and how each of them use their autonomy to use their position, so to speak, to really impact and make change. It's how they rose above their stations in life to equal the playing field, using their voice, and again, in very much a time when women were not, facing discrimination and sexism within their own personal lives, personal statuses, and really how they all sort of overcame that, right, to give us the positives and the benefits behind what we all are able to take advantage of today. So that's some of what you can expect to hear as I talk and discuss about each and every single one of these women. I'm super incredibly excited for you all to hear just some of the commonalities, some of the themes. And so with that being said, please sit back, relax, and enjoy the Women's Work Civil Rights Series.